November 21st, 2025. A date that will soon be etched into the history books as the moment when simmering tensions in Washington finally erupted into open conflict. The nation's capital is gripped by a political battle unlike any other in recent memory, one that calls into question the very foundation of the relationship between the president and the U.S. military and the boundaries of executive power. In a move that stuns the country, a group of prominent Democratic leaders, many of them decorated veterans or former intelligence officials, steps forward to issue a stark public warning to America's service members. Do not obey illegal orders, no matter the source. Their message, broadcast in a direct and urgent video address to all 1.3 million active duty troops, is unambiguous. Your oath is to the Constitution, not to any individual, not even the president. The rule of law, they insist, must come before loyalty to any one leader. The White House, caught off guard by this unprecedented warning, sees it as a direct and public challenge to President Trump's authority as commander-in-chief, a challenge that cannot be ignored. The fallout is immediate and explosive. Accusations of treason and betrayal fly from all sides, and threats of violence begin to circulate, raising the stakes far beyond the realm of typical political disputes. The nation finds itself on edge, with emotions running high. What happens when a president's orders are openly questioned by lawmakers and military veterans? Is this the beginning of a true constitutional crisis, or is it simply another act in the ongoing drama of American politics? The debate has now exploded into the public arena, dominating headlines and airwaves. Both sides are using the strongest language imaginable, each claiming to defend the very soul of the nation. To truly understand this conflict, we must look closely at the actions taken, the words spoken, and the complex web of laws and traditions that govern America's military and its leaders. This is more than just another fight between politicians. It's a test of the core principles and values that have defined American democracy for generations, a test that could shape the nation's future. In the chapters ahead, we'll break down exactly what happened, why it matters so deeply, and what it could mean for the country as it stands at a crossroads in its history. The firestorm began with a video released by 6 Democratic lawmakers, a group that included some of the most prominent voices in Congress. Each of these lawmakers brought a unique perspective to the table. All were either military veterans or former intelligence officers, people who had served their country in uniform or in the shadows, and who understood the weight of responsibility that comes with such service. Senators Alyssa Slotkin and Mark Kelly, along with Representatives Jason Crow, Chris Deluzio, Maggie Goodlander, and Chrissy Houlihan, spoke directly to the men and women currently serving in the armed forces, addressing them not just as politicians, but as fellow Americans who had once worn the uniform themselves. Their message was clear and unwavering. Your oath is to the Constitution of the United States, not to any single president, political party, or individual leader. That sacred promise is the foundation of American democracy. They reminded troops that military law requires the refusal of unlawful orders, a principle that is instilled from the very first day of training, and one that is repeated throughout a service member's career. The lawmakers shared their own experiences, recalling moments when they had to make difficult decisions, and emphasizing the deep respect they hold for the military. They spoke about the importance of distinguishing between lawful and unlawful commands, and the courage it sometimes takes to do the right thing. Jason Crow, an Army veteran who served in combat, stated, "We would never take an oath to a king, a tyrant, or a dictator." His words echoed the core values of the military and the nation itself. The video was not a call for rebellion or insubordination, but a proactive reminder of legal and ethical obligations in the face of what they described as increasingly alarming presidential behavior. It was a message meant to inform, not incite. They wanted service members to be prepared for those rare but critical moments when the law and their own conscience might come into conflict with orders from above, and to know that they are not alone in facing such dilemmas. The message was a public service announcement, one that would ignite a national controversy, spark heated debate, and force the country to confront difficult questions about duty, loyalty, and the rule of law. President Trump's response was swift and incendiary, delivered on Truth Social. He labeled the 6 lawmakers traitors and echoed the rallying cry, "Lock them up?" Trump amplified supporters who called for execution, reposting a comment that George Washington would hang them. He escalated further, posting, "Seditious behavior, punishable by death." Critics called this a dangerous escalation, an unprecedented threat from a sitting president against members of Congress. The backlash was immediate, with many warning that such rhetoric could incite real-world violence. Trump's supporters argued his words were not literal, but a show of strength against political opponents. The line between political theater and real danger had never been thinner. As outrage grew, the White House scrambled to clarify. Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt insisted President Trump did not want lawmakers executed, attempting to cool the firestorm. But she doubled down on the accusation that Democrats were encouraging the military to defy the chain of command. Leavitt claimed the video promoted insubordination and threatened national security. The White House reframed the Democrats' message, ignoring their clear distinction between lawful and unlawful orders. This misrepresentation allowed them to paint the lawmakers as reckless, rather than defenders of military law. The press secretary's statement highlighted the deep divide for the White House. Questioning the president is subversion. For Democrats, it's a defense of the Constitution. The attempt to walk back the rhetoric only deepened the conflict. The debate over loyalty, law, and presidential power raged on. At the heart of this debate is the Uniform Code of Military Justice, or UCMJ. Article 92 is clear: service members must obey lawful orders, but not unlawful ones. The law requires refusal of manifestly illegal commands, such as war crimes or unconstitutional actions. This principle is drilled into every recruit and reinforced by history, from the Nuremberg trials to modern military training. "I was just following orders" is not a defense for illegal acts. The Democrats' video was a reminder of this core tenet, not a call for rebellion. They argue President Trump's rhetoric blurs the line between lawful and unlawful, making their warning necessary. The White House sees it as an attack on presidential authority. The legal framework is clear, but the political battle over its meaning is anything but. The stakes: the rule of law within the military, and the limits of presidential power. The Democrats' warning is rooted in years of concern over Trump's approach to military power. Since 2016, Trump has suggested actions widely considered illegal: torture, targeting civilians, and using the military against protesters. When challenged, he once said, "If I say do it, they're gonna do it." Former officials, like Defense Secretary Mark Esper, have described Trump's willingness to push legal boundaries, including suggestions to use force against American citizens. Since returning to office, Trump has called for prosecuting political opponents, raising fears he might use the military for political ends. Democrats see a pattern: a president who disregards legal limits and threatens to use force for personal or political gain. This history forms the backdrop for the current crisis. The warning was not hypothetical; it was a response to a documented pattern. The debate isn't just about words, it's about actions. In 2025, President Trump ordered military strikes on ships in the Caribbean and Pacific, targeting alleged drug traffickers. At least 83 people were killed, without trial or due process. The United Nations and UK condemned the strikes as illegal extrajudicial killings. Inside the US military, a top commander questioned the legality of the orders, and soon after, retired early. Critics say this shows the real risk. Military leaders who challenge questionable orders are pushed out. For Democrats, this operation is proof that the president is willing to cross legal lines. The debate over lawful orders is no longer theoretical. It's playing out in real time. The stakes for service members have never been higher. The controversy has split Washington along party lines. Democrats say their warning was necessary, citing Trump's threats as proof of danger. Senate Majority Leader Schumer called Trump's posts a deadly serious threat, requesting extra security for targeted lawmakers. Democrats argue they're defending the Constitution and the rule of law. Republicans mostly attacked the Democrats, accusing them of politicizing the military. Senator Lindsey Graham called the video despicable, but even he disagreed with Trump's calls for execution. Some Republicans, like Rand Paul, warned that Trump's rhetoric could incite violence. House Speaker Mike Johnson downplayed Trump's words, calling them a definition of sedition, not a call to violence. The divide is deep, and common ground is scarce. At its core, this is a debate about American democracy and the military's role within it. The question is not just theoretical, It has real consequences for how power is exercised and how the nation responds in moments of crisis. The relationship between civilian leadership and the armed forces is a delicate balance, one that has shaped the country since its founding. The key question: where does a service member's ultimate loyalty lie? Is it to the individual who holds the office of president, or to the enduring principles enshrined in the Constitution? This dilemma is at the heart of the current debate, and it's one that every generation of Americans must confront. Democrats and military law say, loyalty must be to the Constitution, as a safeguard against tyranny. The oath taken by every service member is not to a person, but to the founding document that defines the nation's laws and freedoms. Trump and his supporters argue for unity behind the commander-in-chief, warning that public debate undermines discipline. They believe that questioning orders or the president's authority could weaken the military's effectiveness, especially in times of national emergency. The clash is not new, but today's political climate makes it explosive. With social media amplifying every disagreement, the stakes feel higher than ever, and the consequences of division more severe. Each side sees the other as a threat, one to the rule of law, the other to national security. This mutual suspicion fuels a cycle of mistrust that can be difficult to break. The stability of the military depends on clear rules and trust in the chain of command. Without these, confusion and uncertainty can spread, undermining the very foundation of the armed forces. Service members should never have to choose between loyalty to a leader and loyalty to the law. The expectation is that both will align, but history shows that's not always the case. The current crisis shows how fragile that balance can be. When the lines blur, the consequences ripple far beyond the military, affecting the entire nation. Understanding the facts and the law is essential, because the relationship between the president and the military is a cornerstone of the republic. Only by respecting both can the nation hope to preserve its democracy and its security for generations to come.